the Spurling, got the mic on fire.
Black father, I have black son.
Tune in, weekly feeling inspired. From the heart, real talk at night. Every episode brings the light. Subscribe, hit the like, won't you dare. Share the love, you know it's family. Join us every week, don't be late. Drop some coins in the collection plate. Drop some coins, enjoy the ride. Come say hi, catch the wave, don't pass by. Let the spirits always inside. In this podcast, joy takes flight. Subscribe, hit the like, won't you dare. Share the love, you know it's fair. Join us every week, don't be late. Drop some coins in the collection plate. Drop some coins.
Donation. I thought it was a track, boy.
I'll do what I do.
You know that.
Accept reproductive rights, which, if you follow the news, is the most important issue for women. Is it important for you all?
Absolutely, 100%.
The most dangerous place for a black person in America is actually in our mother's stomachs, because 50% of black deaths a year in America is a.
They've been banking on fear, specifically out of fear of white supremacy racism. They want us to believe that the biggest threat to the black community is racism from outside forces.
You are now rocking with Dennis Spurling, Uncle D. And we talking about the lovely ladies out here. You gonna have to step over them bodies, baby, because it's gonna look nasty. And I'm telling you right now, you're gonna have to have your passport, and you can't shed a tear, baby. And it's only for the weak of mind. And introducing, she ain't acting right. Replace that bitch and call her Uber, get the packing light. You want a man, be the man, pull out the strap tonight. I'm on the first plane smoking, trying to catch a flight. See Maria, she do plumbing, she can fix a pipe. Molly Susie up in Thailand, she massage me right. Your employment is not needed, put your fire, yikes. I love. See they falling one by one, see the changeover. Black men ain't playing games cause the game's over. PS4 and PS5 in the Range Rover. Girls nice, so lame, got a hangover.
I picked you up in my boat and I brought you here to Bangkok. And we had a sick night, bitches. Whoa. You ready for craziest story ever?
In Bangkok, filming like it's hangover. 2,000 baht, hate a thought and get your hangover. So many women, man, free, they don't need a man. 20-year-old, 30-year-old, they all holding hands. 40-year-old, 50-year-old, she ain't got a plan. Turning 60, now she ready, bitch, I'll be damned. You had a chance to keep your man, now you're fair, shouted. You the op, politically bought, with them fast shouting. Benedict on her, you the Judas, with them Diddy parties. You gotta be ready to turn your head over them dead bodies. Stepping over, do your two-step. 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 Reproductive justice, baby, that's a murder. 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 Tell my black babies I love them. If you don't make it, it's the black fathers who suffer. Black mothers don't love you, she let the mother men touch her. Brenda had a black baby and stuffed them inside a gutter. You opened up your shutters and gave away all your butter. Thinking about yourself, you selfish piece of nothing. You be hiding, but you hiding, you don't see the angel. Part of the devil's lullaby, hearing Margaret sang her. It's no wonder why Beyonce had to switch her angles. When two witches hit them switches, all you see is danger. Abort away our blessings, delete generations. Reproductive justice, nah, black annihilation. This what happens, you allow women to run a nation. They kill an innocent without a hesitation. She can't get nothing from me. Not a touch, not a hug, nothing
and I'm
from
gonna
me.
keep showing the world what black men can truly be. And if my look, if my public giving bothers you, mother fudge cake, maybe it's because deep down you know you should be doing the same damn thing I'm doing. So stay mad. Matter of fact, put a cape on and be super mad. Hey, man.
when you look. You're right. The cat was home when you look. You're right. The fish was home when you look. You're right. Your mommy, your daddy, your brother, your sister, the dog, the cat, the fish was home when you look. You're right.
My bad. Can you guys hear me? Hit the number 1 button if you can hear me. My bad, you guys. Like I was saying, while you all couldn't hear me, I got caught up into that video, man. That was pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Big shout out, real powerful. In fact, shout out to Big Bass Life. A man comes through with the video. I got to pay that dude, man. Y'all make sure y'all put something in for the Bass Life Payment Fund. I got to pay him all that good entertainment we got going on out here, man. But shout out to that brother. That is a very powerful video, man. Big shout out to Bass Life. But anyway, welcome to the broadcast family. My name is Dennis Spurling. If you don't know, you should know. They also call me the Blizzard King. I'm Uncle D. Make sure you hit the number 1 button. Make sure you subscribe as you come in. Family, golly, let me so do you guys remember, I guess it was over a year ago now, I had a broadcast where I highlighted the fact that for the most part, all of the attorneys who are representing the state, whether it be Letitia James, Fani, Willis, Nathan Wade, Alvin Bragg, all of these people were black. Even the brother down, even the attorney for the Southern District of Florida, where Donald Trump was being prosecuted, he was black. Even though Jack Smith was the attorney, a special prosecutor assigned, golly, it's like, what's up with all these black people? I started looking, and I realized very quickly that this was a setup. Somebody typed setup in the chat room. And it's not that I am a fortune teller. I do not have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future. But I've studied enough history. I've studied enough political, should I say, war tactics, political tactics. I practiced law almost 25 years. I'm still licensed in multiple states, and I still actively practice law. And I know the limitations of practicing law, and I know oftentimes what people do. And so the question I had to ask myself is, why is it, if these were such slam dunk cases, that all of the lawyers, that there weren't some white fellas and white women lined up to take these cases? What the hell is going on? You see what I'm saying? I realized at that point that this is a setup for a downfall. I realized it. And so I did a broadcast, and it's still up here. It might be just accessible to my members, but it basically said these black lawyers are being set up. These black lawyers are Democratic attack dogs, and it's set up. So if you go through my video collection, my video library, you'll see that. Some of you guys may remember that. You guys remember when I did that video? You guys remember that? Shout out to my man Tavares Squared Up. I appreciate that. Do you all remember when I did that video? In fact, I did a follow-up to it after Fani Willis got exposed. See, you cannot come for the king and miss. You bet not miss. And if you miss, it's going to be a problem. You understand what I'm saying? My man Blanco De Negro said, he says, I remember. Who all remembers that broadcast that I did? You guys remember that? Huh? Do you remember that broadcast? Shoo-wee. Golly, man. And now it's all coming to a head. Look, I warned you all, okay, a time ago. I warned that these so-called black attorneys, right, about what was happening when you allow yourself to be manipulated and used by the very forces that don't have our community's best interests at heart. But they didn't listen. No, they went along and happily became pawns. Matter of fact, as I said, they became attack dogs for this white liberal agenda. And, you know, they're going to chew them up and spit them out the moment they become useless and their usefulness runs dry. They're not interested in justice or equality for Black people. They want convenient soldiers and fall guys to do their dirty work. They're legal hitmen is what they line them up to be. They create an illusion of racial progress while serving someone else's agenda. And our good brother, the good brother Malcolm X, had a lot to say about that. I'm gonna share this video with you guys before we can.
Many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see.
For you guys who don't know, I don't know where you've been, but this is the Honorable El Hajj El Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. Somebody type Malcolm X in the chat room. Brother Malcolm was talking about liberals back in the 1950s. Okay, I want y'all to understand that. Shout out to my man.
See the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling. And you take him for a friend.
There are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly.
See, what Brother Malcolm is doing is he's distinguishing between these white folks who are just straight up who they are. They might be racist. They might have red Confederate flags. It is what it is. You can deal with them. They're like a wolf. They come at you straight up. You know who you're dealing with. But when you're talking about these liberals, they're sneaky like a fox. That's what our great leader, great mind, Brother Malcolm was trying to tell us. That's the same thing that we've been dealing with this Democratic Party. Remember, he came around and he saw the rise of the Democratic Party's popularity in the Black community. Okay, so remember, he is telling us what we've recently he's telling us 60 years ago on this video, what we have come to determine right now, which is why a lot of Black people said, nah, I'm not voting for the Democratic Party anymore. Y'all hit the #1 button. Somebody type X in the chat room.
Toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it, other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay. Today, you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Yeah, he's talking about all of those actors and entertainers, D.L. Hughley, name them all, Van Jones. He's talking about all those people. He's talking about all the different professors, all these different comedians and whatnot. That's who Brother Malcolm was talking about right there. Y'all type X in the chat room in celebration of the life of Brother Malcolm X, man. Big shout out to Brother Malcolm X and his legacy. We will keep him alive. But again, Brother Malcolm was talking about liberals 60 years ago. You see what I mean? And you have these black attorneys who should be educated, at least well-versed in black history and black understanding, getting into bed with these liberal elites, okay? Wielding the law, right? Here's what I want you to understand, right? You got these black attorneys like Letitia James, Fani, Willis, Alvin Bragg, prominent legal minds who should be uplifting our community and fighting real injustice. Instead, they're out here wielding law as a weapon, attacking political figures like Donald Trump at the behest of the liberal elites. They didn't stop to ask if this is how the law should be used, whether it's ethical or justifiable. They simply went along thinking they were moving up the ladder. But let's be clear, they're expendable to those who control them. The minute they step out of line or fail to serve the agenda, they'll be tossed aside, and we all know it. But the writing is on the wall. These folks are running scared because they see the tables are about to turn. Look at Jack Smith. Jack Smith is not white. Jack Smith is not black. He's a white man. But the man couldn't wait a single day. Donald Trump was elected on Tuesday of November, was it November 5th? Right? And after Trump's reelection, Jack Smith started backtracking, taking steps to dismiss his own case. This is the man who was elected to special prosecutor to prosecute Donald Trump on the documents case down in Florida. Some of you guys may have heard about it. He knows. He knows he's out of bounds, and he's smart enough to see the consequences coming. He's already trying to run for cover. And what about James and Willis? Fani Willis just got reelected to Fulton County. She hasn't moved to dismiss the case. And Letitia James, let me show you what Letitia James thought it was a good idea to do. This is Letitia James.
But we are prepared to respond to this result. We faced this challenge before, and we use the rule of law to fight back.
So this woman, who is merely the Attorney General of the state of New York, instead of saying, you know what, we need to go ahead and dismiss this appeal where we got this huge judgment against Donald Trump because, it's frivolous anyway, it didn't work. Instead of dismissing the case, she doubles down. Somebody type double down in the chat room. And she basically is calling out Donald Trump as president-elect of the United States. That's what she did. Look at this.
And we are prepared to fight back once again.
Are you really? I don't think she's ready. But if Letitia James wasn't on Donald Trump's radar, if Letitia James as the Attorney General of the state of New York was something that he was going to get around to at some point later, now she has made herself a priority because she has called him out, attempting to, I guess, and the play is going to be something like, well, we're just defending ourselves. No, you picked a fight with this man. You came for his fortune. You came for his fortune. There was others around you who came for his freedom. And then you had some who say he came for his life. See, she's not intelligent enough like Jack Smith to read the writing on the wall. That man is already running for cover. But James, she's doubling down. Now, what are they going to do when the people who put them up to this start pulling back? They're going to leave those white liberals that you are doing this for, Sister James, they're going to leave you exposed. And when that shield of white liberal protection vanishes, you're going to be standing there alone facing the fallout from these choices. See, this is what happens when you allow yourselves to be used. This is what happens when you trade in your integrity for power and forget where you come from and who you are. They were warned. I warned them. And I'm sure there are people around them that warned them, but they let themselves be turned into attack dogs for people who will never truly stand by them. Remember this, when the dust settles, these black lawyers who have become the attack dogs for the white liberal wing of the Democratic Party, they're gonna be the only ones left holding the bag. Because believe me, the people that they're working for have already packed and they're ready to get out of town. I want you to understand what I mean. And I've been telling you guys this, and nobody believes old Uncle D. But this gentleman here to the right, this is a very popular podcast right here on YouTube. And this gentleman to this, look, Trump just got elected this week for the replay party. Some of y'all might see this in a couple weeks. He got elected on Tuesday. It is now Friday. And they are already talking stuff. I've never heard anybody say this like this. This man is an attorney. Y'all think I'm bad. All you look, hey, look, if you don't like, this is going to be offensive to some folk. I want you to hear what this man said. He's a fierce ally of President-elect Donald Trump. And on Thursday, which is yesterday, he basically said, and I'm going to paraphrase because I'm going to let him say what he says, we'll have no patience for the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, if she continues to weaponize the legal system against the 47th president. Here's what he said, and I'm going to paraphrase, I dare you. Somebody type, I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term. His name is Mike Davis. That's Mike Davis right there, that white fella right there to the right. Mike Davis is the founder of the Article 3 Project, and it's an advocacy group that pushes for the nominations of conservative judges. And he said this during this fella to the left is his name is the Benny. He has something called the Benny Show podcast. And he said, listen here, sweetheart. And I'm gonna let him say it for himself. Listen here, sweetheart. He's referring to this esteemed Attorney General, Letitia James. I'm gonna let him say it himself. Just so you know, they're floating this man as the Attorney General. He might end up being the attorney. He might be the White House counsel in the incoming administration. He basically is telling her to think long and hard before any potential violation of President-elect's constitutional rights. He said this 2 days after this man was elected. Okay? Now, of course, James said, we're going to use the rule of law. How you going to use the rule of law against the people who make up the rules? James got a $454 million civil judgment, fraud judgment against Trump. They were trying to break this man. You remember that? He couldn't come up with the bond, and they were trying to embarrass him and take his buildings. Remember that? And now you still talking. Listen to what he had to say.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what he said? Sweetheart, first of all, he started off by calling a big Tish. And then he threw a sweetheart in there. And that was not a sign of love. He Big Tish, sweetheart. And what did he say? Put your fat ass in prison. I ain't say that. That wasn't me. I ain't say that. All you people that don't like what I got to say, he said it. I'm going to put your fat ass in prison. I'm going to play that one more time. Okay, if y'all want to hear that, woo-wee. Lord Jesus, it just got hot. Somebody talking, it's hot up in here. Man, listen to this.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term. Because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights, and I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike.
Some of you all don't think this is a real game. Let me explain the difference between Donald Trump in 2016 and Donald Trump in 2024. Donald Trump in 2016 was considered not to be taken seriously by the Republican Party. Okay? That was some time ago now. 2016, he had resistance in the Republican Party. They didn't really think he was serious. They had some old school fellas out there. Shout out to my man, Still Kirk. Shout out to everybody who contributed to the super chat. Good looking out, fam. I appreciate y'all and the cash out. But let's I want y'all to understand, because a lot of people saying, well, he was threatening to put Hillary Clinton in jail, and he didn't. Okay. Well, it's a different time period. Hillary Clinton, she was talking stuff, but she wasn't coming for his fortune. Hillary Clinton was not one of the lawyers trying to being used as an instrument to try to take this man's freedom, to take him away from his son. Remember, this man had to come to court and couldn't go to his son's graduation from high school, man. They marched this man down to the Manhattan courthouse and made him take a mug shot, man. This is what they did to that man. This man used to run the city of New York, and you got him down here taking a mug shot. Yeah, he flipped the script and made it something that he could make money off of, but that's just kudos to him for that. This woman, these people got on TV every day, these black lawyers who are basically being used as attack dogs for the left wing of the Democratic Party, were trying to clown this man. They thought he was down. And now this man has rose out the ashes like a phoenix. Look, as I said, it doesn't matter if you don't like Donald Trump or not. As a man, you have to respect his mental toughness for going through this. You have to respect the fact that this man took on several states' governments and the federal government and held them off long enough and kept his head about himself, no matter what he was dealing with, kept his family intact, kept his team on his side, and pushed through and came out the other side a winner. You got to respect that. He didn't fold. He didn't cop a plea. He kept spending money. He brought people to his side, and he messed around and campaigned like a champ and won. I just want you to think about it. Some of you all couldn't deal with that. Some of y'all get put in handcuffs and you fall apart. Shout out to my man, Delete Laws. He'll tell you about them torture cuffs. You get put in the back of a squad car, you cry, you can't do it. They tried to embarrass this man on the world stage, and some say they tried to take his life twice. And now you got the nerve to get on TV, because see, this is the response.
But we are prepared to.
This right here, okay, with Mike Davis.
This to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General.
This was his response to her, okay?
But we are prepared to.
She thought it was a good idea to hop on TV with the governor Holcomb, I believe that's her name, the New York governor Holcomb, and basically said, look, you need to lower our taxes out here, blah. They thought it was a good idea to call this man and call attention to themselves. And then that's the response they got. So look, let me explain something to you, man. Things are different now. You did too much to him. This is not a Hillary Clinton situation where he's threatening to put people in jail. Donald Trump darn near has to punish these people. He has to put them in jail. He has to bankrupt them. He has to use that, because if he doesn't, just like the good brother the General Shaka Zulu said, they will rise up again. His enemies will then rise up again and try to come from him, and they're not going to miss that time. He has to neuter them politically. He has to put them in prison. He has to put them in jail. He's got to do it just to protect himself and his family, because he's not going to be president forever. But so it's a different situation. It's going to happen. And the fact that they've called attention to themselves, woo-wee. I don't know why you would do that. They should have done what Jack Smith did. Pack up, it's time to go home. So what I want to do is, Mike Davis, who's an attorney, he mentioned Chapter 18, United States Code, subsection 241, conspiracy against rights. That is more likely than not. Basically, he's saying interference with an election. That more than likely is going to be the statute that they're going to use to go after Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Fani Willis. That's what they're going to use. Nathan Wade. Okay? Jack Smith, Judge Merchan, Juan Merchan. Now I'm going to talk about this in detail. Okay? So it's called conspiracy against rights, and the statute has a broader scope, and it covers all constitutionally protected rights. And it targets conspiracies that aim to deprive individuals of their rights. So back in the day when black folks got their right to vote, after as the Southerners say, the War of Northern Aggression ended, or the Civil War ended, oftentimes you would have white folks in Mississippi, Alabama, whatnot. They would get together and they would sit in front of the courthouses or wherever you would vote with their guns, and they wouldn't say anything. They would just try to intimidate black voters. And they would get together and do so. They would come to people. You had a person who was in the community who was trying to get black people to come down and vote. They would go burn their house down and do mean things to them and run them out of town. They would get together. That's a conspiracy. And the conspiracy basically, what 18 USC subsection 241 does is it makes it illegal for two or more people to conspire to injure or threaten or intimidate any person in their free exercise of rights protected under the Constitution or federal law. And it covers a wide array of rights beyond just voting. Okay, it also covers free speech and equal protection under the law and fair and legal treatment. And it brings about some very harsh penalties if the conspiracy results in bodily harm or death. So that's where the laws came from. Okay. Now, the statute applies more generally to conspiracies that interfere with any constitutional or federally protected right. And it's not just limited to voting or the election process. And it often is invoked in civil rights cases and hate crime prosecutions, police misconduct, and cases where individuals are unlawfully deprived of their fundamental rights. Donald Trump has a fundamental right to run for president if he meets the criteria. And he has a fundamental right to do that, to be unabridged. So let's analyze this a little bit more, all right? And I'm gonna go a little deeper into it. When I say 18 USC subsection 241 is a federal statute that addresses conspiracy against rights, it is part of the Civil Rights Act, and this law makes it a crime for two or more individuals to conspire to infringe upon or deprive another person of their rights, their privileges, their immunities, and that's protected under the Constitution and other federal laws. Now, the conspiracy requires, or the statute requires, at least two people to conspire, meaning they have a shared intent and they take coordinated action to violate someone's rights. And the rights involved must be those that are guaranteed under the Constitution or federal law, such as voting, freedom of speech, or some other protected protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. What are the penalties? Violating this statute can lead to very severe penalties. If the conspiracy results in some sort of injury or involves a serious threat, penalties can include fines, but also imprisonment and even life sentences. Somebody talk about the L, okay? Especially when the victim suffers bodily injury. So remember, they used to sit outside and hurt black people and wouldn't let them vote. So this is where that came from. So it's part of the Civil Rights Act. So just keep that in mind, okay? And again, the original law was used to combat violations of civil rights, particularly in cases involving racial discrimination, intimidation, and these other threats to fundamental rights. So you got somebody trying to run for mayor in a small Mississippi town, and you got folks who are threatening them and beating them up. Whether the federal government can come down and put some people in jail. Okay, those are one of those laws. It's an interference with your rights. Okay, it's a conspiracy to violate what's your protected right. Now, when we look at Letitia James, how does this apply? How does 18 USC subsection 241 conspiracy against rights apply to the New York Attorney General Letitia James? Well, based on her conduct, the thing that we would need to show is that her actions went beyond the standard prosecutorial conduct and formed part of a coordinated attempt to deprive Donald Trump of his constitutional rights. Now, theoretically, okay, and I'm putting this case together for you, so, if it happens, it happens. But again, under 18 USC subsection 241, two or more individuals conspire to infringe on the rights on a person's rights. And, to me, if Attorney General James, shout out to Tisha Nuor, thank you for becoming a member. If she acted in concert with other officials, political figures, to strategically time her litigation against Trump, this could satisfy that conspiracy. So, did she talk to the White House? I believe there's proof out there that Letitia James, Fani Willis, and Nathan Wade met with White House officials. You see? I believe she and Alvin Bragg may have had a few conversations. I believe she probably spoke with Jack Smith. Oh, this is all part of the records. You got to sign in and sign out when you go to the White House. These are all public records. The Freedom of Information Act will get you that. So some of the protected rights at stake, the right to fair treatment in the legal proceeding. If Attorney General Letitia James, her legal actions, they could be construed as biased or politically motivated, and that is a violation of Trump's right to impartial legal treatment. She specifically campaigned on putting him in jail or coming for his money. You see? So that in itself is something that needs to be analyzed. More importantly, a person has a right to participate in elections. And Attorney General Letitia James' litigation to interfere with Donald Trump's ability to campaign or participate in the electoral process, that infringed upon his political rights under the First Amendment. Now, what was her intent? For subsection 241 to imply, we would need to have evidence that Letitia James' intent was not merely to pursue justice, but to target Trump in a way that strategically impacted his political standing. Statements that she's made in public, and which there are plenty of them. The timing of the litigation. Why did they wait 4 years or 8 years after this allegedly happened, right before he was set to announce himself to run for president of the United States? So timing of the litigation is something that could be looked at. Any explicit coordination with other political figures, and I'm talking about White House, some of these other lawyers, all of that could illustrate a politically motivated agenda. Now, prosecutors typically have broad discretion in pursuing cases, but the statute could be invoked if it were proven that Letitia James' actions are part of a broader, concerted effort aimed at political interference rather than just the objective of law enforcement. evidence would need to be required to show that her actions were designed not just for legal ends, but as part of a coordinated effort. And so what I'm saying is, this can be proven. She can't just simply rely on prosecutorial discretion, but a conspiratorial effort to deprive Trump of his right through politically driven actions. The allegations would hinge on proving intent, coordination, and improper use of legal authority. And look, the only question I have is who's going to jail? Because if that's all they need to prove, that's just paperwork. Those are just subpoenas and sign-in sheets. That can happen. Now, in the same state, and darn near the same courthouse or across the street, when Letitia James was suing him in state court trying to take that $500 million, you got Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is the district attorney of Manhattan, or district attorney of New York City. Now, it's one thing to try to sue somebody and take their money. It's another thing to try to prosecute somebody and take their freedom. Now, for you guys who don't know, the background is this. Alvin Bragg, as I said, he's not the mayor of everybody who's familiar with New York. You know, you got 5 different boroughs. And correct me if I'm wrong, where my East Coast people at, I think it's Manhattan, it's Long Island, it's Queens, I believe it's Brooklyn, and then is it Staten Island or something like that? Or is it Staten, or is it the Bronx? Is that what it is? Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island, not Long Island, Staten Island, Queens, and Manhattan. Is that it? Did I get them all? Did I get all the 5 boroughs? So Alvin Bragg is the district attorney of Manhattan, okay? And he initiated what I think was a highly questionable criminal case against Donald Trump, and it's centered on some alleged financial misconduct. The case rests on very tenuous accusations. They call it the hush money case, and Bragg's case hinged on payments allegedly directed by Trump to his adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign. This is 8 years ago. And these payments were purportedly intended to silence her claims of an affair, and Bragg is attempting to frame this as a campaign finance violation. Okay, but let's be honest. Shout out to my man TIQS, man. Yeah, I got that email from you, TIQS, and I'm like, well, I guess I need to talk about it. My man TIQS, he said, thank you for covering this topic, Uncle D. You predicted this a few years ago to leave Trump alone. They poked the bear, and now they may have to deal with the consequences. If you come for the king, you bet not miss. You understand me? If you come for the king, you bet not miss. And these silly black attorneys who have taken over these governmental positions, you got a government job. They could take your job away from you at any moment. You're a government lawyer. Letitia James, Fani, Willis. And I'm gonna give my man, Your Excellency, so I'm gonna get back to you in a minute. But the bottom line is, I saw this coming because I understand history. I understand how the system works. And I've listened to the great minds in Black America, Brother Malcolm, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, name the rest, Thurgood Marshall, the Honorable Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Judge. I listen to all our great leaders, and they all have come. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, read their books. Brother Malcolm, Dr. Martin Luther King, don't listen to the speech. Read his books. Read his writings when he was in that jail. He's written dozens and dozens of letters explaining who he was. He's saying the same thing. And when you understand how this system works, you can predict these things. But let's get back to it. So it was a hush money trial. They said Donald Trump directed some money to Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet about an affair. In some kind of way, that was considered a campaign violation. But campaign violations have to do with federal law, not state law. The bottom line is giving somebody hush money in itself is not illegal. And attempting to spin it as a campaign violation is just weak. And Bragg's team claimed that Trump falsified business records by mislabeling these payments as legal expenses, as opposed to calling it a settlement. But he gave it to his lawyer. Look, I mean, it's just all questionable. But the claim hinges on asserting that Trump's intent to commit an underlying crime, which Bragg failed to convincingly demonstrate. So he wasn't able to convince that he committed a crime. It was a flimsy pretense for elevating this to a felony. Bragg, and I'm talking about Alvin Bragg, escalated this to a felony under New York law and alleging intent to commit another crime, but the lack of any solid evidence or any comparable precedent for this approach, it exposed a possible abuse of the legal process. So now Bragg was really stretching the application of the campaign finance laws, and it's unprecedented in the way in which it was used. Historically, cases like this have never warranted criminal charges. And this unorthodox approach does more than raise eyebrows. It hints at weaponizing the legal system to target a political adversary, i.e. Donald Trump. Somebody type Lawfare in the chat room. Somebody type Lawfare in the chat room. This has never been done before. Somebody type Lawfare in the chat room. Now, we cannot ignore the glaring issue, and that is the political motivation. Look at the timing. You had 8 years to bring this criminal action, and you wait right up until this man decides to run for president. And so when we look at the timing of Bragg's bringing of this case, his actions align suspiciously with the election cycle, appearing almost tailored to damage Trump's political prospects. And the appearance of Lawfare here is undeniable. And this is about using the legal system as a blunt instrument against Trump, with all the signs pointing towards a politically charged motive. Look, I'm a lawyer. I respect the legal system. And when the legal system loses integrity, when people see you outright abusing your power, or if they think that you're doing it, people don't listen to the law. They don't pay attention to judgments. They don't pay attention to lawyers. They don't pay attention to cops anymore. So you undermine the entire legal system. And without some sort of legal system, some sort of secular legal system, we have chaos in society. And that's what you see happening. When people stop believing, Dr. King said this. And shout out to my man, Mr. Ward. Good looking out, bro. I appreciate that bill. Thank you for that $100, man. Thank you so much. I'm gonna make sure I give you a shout out later. Thank you so much. But when people lose faith in the legal system, let me go back to the quote that I was gonna give you. Dr. Martin Luther King said, riots are the voice of the voiceless. I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically that's the voice of the unheard. People rioted back in the day in the 1960s, police brutality, they had formed a riot because the law didn't, if the police could just come in and destroy us and beat us up and unalive our people, then we're gonna riot, we're gonna burn it down. Why should we adhere to the law if the law is being used as a shield to allow people to do things that violated our humanity? You see? To kill us and unalive us. No, that's not cool. So they rioted. And so that's what Dr. Martin Luther King wisely said in response to a reporter who asked him about his position on some of the riots that were going on. But look, as far as going back to Bragg, his prosecution of Donald Trump could easily be interpreted as an assault on Trump's right to participate in political discourse. That's a First Amendment violation. See, by targeting his ability to run for office, Alvin Bragg treaded dangerously on grounds of infringing Trump's First Amendment rights. So, you know, what we're looking at is a potential for indictment for election interference and conspiracy against rights. This wasn't a civil case. This was a criminal case. And so under 18 USC 241, Bragg's case against Trump could be viewed as an organized effort to deprive Trump of his rights. Now, what are the allegations of collusion? What would they need to prove? They would need evidence that Bragg might have coordinated with the federal officials that's the U.S. Attorney General's office or the White House, to strategically time and manipulate these charges to undermine Trump's campaign. And that could easily constitute a violation under the statute. And such a conspiracy would meet the legal definition of conspiracy against rights by depriving Trump of his right to fair treatment and participation in the election. Shout out to my man, Wrench Turner. And that's not hard to prove. All you need is the notes. All you need to know is who he met with. Did you meet with did you meet with the Attorney General of the state of New York, Letitia James? That gets her and him. Did you meet with any White House officials? Did you meet with the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York? Did you meet with Jack Smith? I'm gonna tell you something. On his face, Alvin Bragg's actions look like an abuse of prosecutorial power aimed squarely at political suppression. And if his conduct can be shown to align more with political vendettas than with genuine law enforcement, then this case moves firmly into 18 U.S.C. 241 territory. And when a public official weaponizes the law against political opponents, it's nothing less than an assault on democracy. This is very serious. Let me remind you, Alvin Bragg's case against Trump crossed multiple lines, legal lines, and challenges. And it affects the very fabric of our justice system. It is a chilling example of how legal authority can be exploited for political ends. And it raises serious questions about integrity and the abuse of power. And if Bragg's action were truly a coordinated effort to sideline Trump's political ambitions, then he stands in clear violation of 18 U.S.C. subsection 241. And this is not just legally questionable. It is a direct assault on Trump's rights as a citizen and as a candidate for president, and it should not be tolerated. Now, Judge Juan Merchan, he is the judge that sat in judgment of this case. He is set. I want y'all to hear this now. It ain't over. It's about to be a big mess on November 18th. Because Judge Juan Merchan, keep in mind, Judge Juan Merchan is a Colombian native. He was born in Colombia, and he made his way, immigrated to the United States. Now he's sitting on the bench in state court in New York, and he happened to draw this criminal case prosecuted by Alvin Bragg. And if you guys know, Google his name. Donald Trump doesn't like him very much at all. He doesn't like him. He knows his name. And they've had some issues, okay? Now, the question is, now keep in mind, he's white, okay? I'm going to just put it out there. He's white. Now, wisely, somebody must have put a bug in Judge Juan Merchan's ear and said, look, you probably don't want to prosecute him, or probably don't. The judgment came down. He was judged guilty. Some of the case, some of the criminal indictment was dismissed, but he was adjudicated guilty. And now he was supposed to sentence him. Judge Juan Merchan was supposed to sentence Donald Trump, but he said, I'm going to delay it until after the election because I don't. And somebody said, well, you might not want to do that because you might get, if he wins, and on the off chance, mind you, this is a couple of months ago, if he wins, you might be in violation of 18 USC if you try to put this man in jail. Okay? So it said, maybe you best see if he gets elected or not. And he did that. So he pushed the date back to November 17th, 18th. I don't know the exact date, but I know it's in a couple of weeks. And now we're in a situation where he's got to make a decision as to whether or not this case should be dismissed outright, because in the interim time period between the time the case was brought and the hearing happened, the Supreme Court of the United States said that the president they interpreted the immunities clause for the president and said that he might fall within the immunity. If Judge Juan Merchan was smart, he would dismiss this case outright and say Donald Trump is a president. He was a president at the time these things happened, and therefore we just gonna dismiss it outright, period. Even though it happened before, we gonna dismiss it. Because technically the hush money was paid after he became president-elect. I think he was already in office and his lawyer sent Stormy Daniels some more money. So technically he was already in office. And he did it through his private attorney, but and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but the bottom line is he has an opportunity to dismiss this case. If he chooses not to dismiss this case on the grounds that the Supreme Court has already said that there's presidential immunity, then he has to sentence him. Now, will Donald Trump do a day in jail? Of course not. He will never. It is not in the best interest of the United States now that he's been elected president. No, not at all. Had Donald Trump not been elected president, he very well may have been sentenced to some sort of criminal penalty. I don't know if it's probation or whatever, but the bottom line is that didn't happen. So now Judge Juan Merchan, who presided over this criminal case against Donald Trump, prosecuted by Alvin Bragg, involving these hush money payments, Merchan's role places him at the center of a politically charged case, clearly, and where any perceived or actual conflict of interest could compromise the integrity of the proceedings. And his record already suggests cause for concern. Remember, Judge Juan Merchan's daughter's involvement with the Democratic Party politics, she reportedly is working as a Democratic operative. And that immediately raises questions about Merchan's impartiality. A judge's duty to appear unbiased is foundational. Yet Merchan's connections cast a long shadow of doubt over his ability to rule without political influence. It's my understanding that his daughter has raised millions of dollars for the Democratic Party. He should have recused himself. I believe there was a motion to have him recused, and they didn't. But he should have refused. He should have recused himself on his own, but he didn't. You see, a judicial impartiality isn't just an expectation. It's a necessity. And judges are supposed to render decisions based solely on law and evidence. But Merchan's family ties to partisan politics undermines this principle. This is more than an appearance of bias. It's a glaring conflict that compromises the legitimacy of every decision that this judge makes in this case. Now, as I said, Judge Merchan's daughter's active role in Democratic campaigns and advocacy groups indicates that a partisan perspective it likely permeates his family's environment. You know, you sitting around, you having conversations during the holiday, you talking to your daughter, she's talking to you. You know, you're biased, okay? And the defense could rightly argue that Merchan's association with partisan politics probably influences his judgment against this very prominent Republican figure, i.e., former president and now president-elect Donald Trump, and it creates a clear perception of bias. So, you know, judges can, you know, they can claim they're insulated from their family's influence, but the public perception, what you all think, that tells a different story. If your daughter is out here making money with the Democrats and you happen to be the judge who can get rid of their main opposition, it looks pretty bad to the public. And so if Judge Merchan issues a ruling that appears unfavorable to Trump, his daughter's political affiliations will inevitably fuel accusations that his decisions are influenced by partisan loyalties. And this isn't just about bias, it's about whether the judge's ruling can be trusted at all. What happens when you no longer believe the judges are unbiased? You stop listening to them. You have chaos. And so this is very important. Now, in this case, the defense attorneys for Donald Trump, they pounced on every potential conflict. They even start speaking publicly about Donald Trump's perception of Merchan and his daughter. They talked about it, but then they put a gag order and said, you can't even talk about it anymore. That's what they did. They had strong grounds for him to recuse himself, arguing that Judge Merchan's family ties to the Democrat Party are an undeniable conflict of interest. And he ignored it, or the courts ignored it. It was a necessary step to preserve fairness in the proceedings, and they just ignored it. So here's the thing. Judges have ethical rules. Judges are bound by ethical rules to avoid conflicts of interest and uphold impartiality. And Mershon's connections to the Democratic activism through his daughter, that strikes at the heart of those ethical rules. And this relationship isn't a minor oversight, it's a potential breach of the very rules that govern judicial conduct. Recusal should have happened, and there's legitimate reasons why it should have happened. In fact, I would argue that it was mandatory in this regard on such a high-profile case, but he remained on the case. And because he remained on the case, he has risked tainting the process with a clear perception of bias, warranting serious scrutiny. The public trust is in order. Judicial integrity is built on public trust, and that political affiliation, the thought that political affiliation is influencing the judicial system, the judicial decisions, it corrodes the confidence of the legal system. And this case involving President Trump, it amplifies the stakes. Here's the thing. Under 18 U.S.C. subsection 241, Judge Mershon's role could be seen as part of a coordinated effort to deprive Trump of his rights. If the evidence suggests that Judge Juan Mershon conspired with other political figures or judicial actors to skew the case against Trump, it could lead to severe repercussions. And any coordinated plan to use the judicial process as a political weapon could fall squarely under 18 U.S.C. subsection 241, a statute meant to prevent exactly the kind of misuse. Now, here's the thing. Mershon's conduct might cross the line in a conspiracy and deprive Trump of a fair trial or an abuse of judicial authority aimed at political suppression. If his decision appears politically biased, it's more than just a violation of ethics. It's a federal crime, and it can't be ignored. You understand what I'm saying? Are y'all still with me? Let me know. This is a lot. Look, I like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. But I want to make sure you all understand where I'm coming from. Okay? Now, basically what I'm saying is, if this judge was in cahoots with other public figures and public players, or let's say, the Democratic Party got at him in some sort of way and said, hey, we're going to hook your daughter up, he's out of here. He's doing fair time. See, his role isn't just critical, it's now suspect. If the connections influence his rulings, that constitutes a violation of federal law. This man is a key figure in this potential conspiracy in violation of Trump's rights. And this goes beyond appearance. It's an outright compromise of the judicial integrity that demands accountability. Now, here's the twist. Somebody type, here's the twist in the chat room. Typically, judges have something called judicial immunity. That means the judge can pretty much do anything. There was a case where a judge somewhere down south, I remember reading it, a case where a judge ordered a girl, or father wanted his daughter sterilized. So the judge, who was a friend of the father, because she was dating interracially, and this is back when that wasn't tolerated as much as it is now. So the judge had issued an order having the girl sterilized. They sterilized the girl, and the girl then tried to turn around, and clearly illegal. The girl then tried to turn around and sue the judge, and the Supreme Court said he has immunity. Supreme Court of that state said there's something called judicial immunity, and judges are pretty much immune from all these horrible things that they may do from the bench. So that being the case, Judge Juan Mershon may have judicial immunity from his rulings from the bench, even if he was having conversations with these other officials. Now, here's the catch. He has immunity because he's a judge. But some of you all who heard the fact pattern understand that his daughter would also be a co-conspirator. Phone records, text messages. And as a member of the judiciary, he would have to give that stuff up. So even though Juan Merchan might not be looking at federal time, he might, if he continues forward, risk the freedom of his daughter because she's the Democratic operative. She would be the one who they would suspect would conspire with him. Hey, look, once Trump gets in office, the United States Attorney General could subpoena and indict whoever the hell they want to. They can get Juan Merchan, they can get his daughter, they can pit them against each other. What did your daddy tell you? What did you tell your daddy? And you better not lie. You know what happens when you interfere with a FBI, a federal investigation? What happens when you lie to the FBI? Jail, prison, right? So he can pit them against each other. So if Judge Juan Merchan was right, if he was intelligent, what he should do is say, look, he can bail himself out of this real quick by saying, you know what? In the interim time period, since we initiated this case, the Supreme Court has already ruled that Donald Trump is immune, and therefore, I'm going to dismiss this case outright, Alvin Bragg. And he could save himself a whole lot of trouble. And remember, this man is from Colombia. He does not have long-standing family roots here in the United States. This man, in effect, is a foreigner. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have any backup. You're not black or white. Technically, you're Latino. You're a white Latino, and you might hold yourself out as white. But as far as Donald Trump is concerned, you're not one of his. And again, you don't have long-standing roots. So if Judge Merchan goes forward with sentencing Donald Trump and coming to and reaches the fruition of this conspiracy, man, your daughter might end up in prison. If nothing else, they're gonna put you through the prosecutorial rope-a-dope and wear you out, wear your daughter out, and anybody she's affiliated with. Well, how much did they give her? What was her job paying her? She's a Democratic operative. How much did she raise for the Democrats? Tell us about the conversations you had. Here's a text message. We want to look at it. We want to look at your emails. All of that. You risk your daughter and your family fooling around with these liberals. Trying to co-sign. He was big. Look, I'm gonna just say, it can happen. Because once the federal government starts filing lawsuits against you, they're not done till they're done. Anybody who's had to deal with the federal courthouse or the U.S. Attorney's Office in whatever state they're in, get a dope charge and be transporting dope up I-20 or I-10 and see if they're not finished with you till they get through with you. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Brown Horn in 1975. So this is what this man is. Look, you can be hard-headed, Judge Merchan, if you want to. Go ahead and be hard-headed and persist. You see, but you should do what Jack Smith did. I want y'all to have y'all noticed something. Jack Smith, as I said earlier, the day after, he started dismissing his case. Juan Merchan gave himself an out about 2 weeks ago and said, no, I'm not going to sentence him now. I'm going to wait till after the election. So he gave himself an out. Guess who's going full steam ahead? Letitia James, Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, the black lawyers. I guess they didn't get the memo. Speaking of which, and for you guys who came in late, Letitia James is the Attorney General of the state of New York. She said this in response to Donald Trump being elected.
Expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. We faced this challenge before, and we use the rule of law to fight back.
Somebody type big and bad in the chat room. Somebody type big and bad. Big bad Letitia James in the chat room. She big and bad, right? Go ahead.
And we are prepared to fight back once again.
Mm-hmm. She had all that. This was this week. She said that on Wednesday. She won't let it go, right? You won't let it go. And so one of Donald Trump's operatives, a very close lawyer friend of his who works directly with Donald Trump, hopped on the internet and said this in response.
To Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on.
Put your fat ass in prison. Did you hear that? That's what he said. I didn't say it. Okay, look, he said, we're going to put your fat ass in prison. Big Tish, sweetheart, we're going to put your fat ass in prison. Speaking of which, she could have just been quiet and did what Jack Smith did and quietly dismissed the damn case. But no, she wants to get on TV and say, we ready. We ready for this fight. Let me take a look. Let me take a little sidebar here. Let me take a little sidebar. So, black women, I want you to listen to me. I want you to hear me. I love you. Uncle D truly love you. I don't like some of the behavior of some of the ratchets amongst us, but I want you to hear something. I want you to listen to me. If you've been watching the news for about the past 10, 15 years, you've seen the prominent rise of a lot of black women who become mayors, they become district attorneys, they become state's attorneys. In some kind of way, they always end up getting indicted. The lady in Baltimore, she got indicted because she bought a house down in Florida and changed some digits up on the application. Then she got disbarred and put in jail. You got Fani Willis. She down there ignoring subpoenas. They're going to indict her and she's going to lose her law license. Now you got Letitia James. You out here picking fights with the most powerful man in the world with the weight of the United States behind him. The man literally is the earth beneath your feet when it comes to law and order. But I want you all to understand something, fam. You got a situation with black women, and my grandma used to say, you done got a little too big for your britches, okay? You done got a little too big for your britches. Here you are, you was gassed up in the and I love you. I'm talking to you ladies from a place of love. I want you to don't come at me talking crazy. I'm trying to tell you, shout out to Take Heed. I think Take Heed is up in here. Listen to me. Listen to me. You gotten a little too big for your britches. There was a time when our sisters were considered sapphire. They could aspire to be the white man's side chick. It is what it is. Okay? He had his mistress, he had his wife, he had the white woman in the big house, and he would mess around with the black woman, his sapphire, in the back house, in the slave quarter. I'm just saying. And so you had a role that you played in this society. Okay? And in response, the white man would give you little trinkets and gifts, and sometimes during the slave period, he'll let you go free, but you were pretty much harmless. He used you to kind of keep the brothers and the children under control. And even in the black community for the past 60 years, he would use you to kind of keep us under control and so on and so forth. But some kind of way, this hire stuff, affirmative action, got you to a point where they gave you a few degrees and they put you in some positions of power in the white man's establishment, in his business. And for whatever reason, you forgot that it was his house. See, you left your house. You left the black man's house and said, I'm done with these black dudes. Look, I love you. Not all of y'all, but it's a lot of y'all. Just listen to me. Now, I know you're mad. This has probably got some people with the temperature running up. I know some sisters in here listen. But you got a little bit beside yourself and you start thinking you could compete with the white man for his things in his business in his house. That's what you did. And you start running for positions of power in his cities. It's already bad enough they had black men running for mayor and, district attorney. We're men. We'll deal with us. We deal with each other. Yeah, okay. Your Willie Browns, Detroit mayor, all that. Okay. But now you got black women doing the same thing, and you all are not like us. Men in general know how to operate. We know how to get along. And for the most part, black men recognize the hierarchy. We play the game. We get rich. We play with we do the sports thing. Some of us can be owners, but for the most part, we get it and we get out and we cool. You all can't get your money and be quiet. You want to get your money and be prominent. You are standing on the white man's ladder telling him what he can't do in his country, in his nation, in his judicial system. And you have basically presented yourself as a challenger to his power. And he is showing you with all intents and purposes that you are not on his level. You all, us in the black community, most of us with intelligence, we do not consider Kamala Harris black. And as some say she's a woman of color, but the bottom line is the white folks don't consider her white. So she's definitely not white. But they showed you that we're not going to vote for her. She lost worse than Hillary Clinton. She got blown out. You're vying for the white man's power and his position, and it bothers him. To the point that you are trying to challenge him. It's embarrassing. You think he wants a president, a black female president in his country? What are the rest of the nations around the world are going to say? And so here you have somebody like Letitia James. You are challenging Donald Trump, and your challenge is an affront to all of these white men. And on top of that, you're disrespectful and belligerent. And that goes for Fani Willis's and all the rest of these black women who've ascended to power. I'm not saying you didn't earn it. I'm just letting you know that you make yourself a target when you start taking power away, positions that are typically intended for white men, if not men. And now you're a woman and you talking stuff. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing it out. And so now you're a target. And so when we look at Letitia James, she's a New York Attorney General. She aggressively pursued civil action against Donald Trump and his business, alleging some sort of fraudulent business practices and focused on asset valuation. Basically, he was applying for a loan, and he said, I'm worth $1 billion, and I got some property down here in Florida and Key Mar-a-Lago worth $1 billion. They say, nah, that's only worth $17 million. What? This house is down the street from me worth $17 million. Mar-a-Lago is an estate. It's like Disneyland or something. You saying that's only worth $17 million? And her case, and I'm talking about Letitia James, her case hinges on claims that Trump and his company inflated the values of those properties to secure favorable loans and insurance. And, allegedly, these misleading financial statements they're at the core. But the accusations are unproven, and her case rests on some subjective assessments that are often open to interpretation in business. They do it all the time. But either way, she filed a civil lawsuit on behalf of the state of New York, and she was looking for these very severe financial penalties, even the dissolution of Donald Trump's businesses in New York. They were trying to ban this man from his home state. This man is born and raised in Queens. And these are considered some extreme measures. And this is more than just an ordinary fraud case. It looks suspicious, like he was targeted to be taken down as a political figure. And the case supposedly centers on New York's fraud and deceptive trade practices. But Letitia James' aggressive approach, it raises a lot of red flags. And her intent appears less about enforcing the law and more about political retribution. That's what we all thought. And here's the cold part about it. When we look at her political motivation, James has made her opposition to Trump vocal and clear. This woman even campaigned on her intent to go after Donald Trump. And this is not conduct of an impartial legal officer, but of someone with a partisan agenda. Her actions appear intended to sabotage Trump's public image and challenge the integrity, and it challenges the integrity of the legal system. Here's the thing. There's a difference in the civil and the criminal standards. The lawsuit that Letitia James filed on behalf of the state of New York doesn't carry criminal penalties, but it still seeks these draconian financial and operational consequences for Trump. The use of the civil lawsuit to achieve what looks like a political takedown against an ex-president or public figure, it looks like an abuse of power and a potential setup to skirt around the criminal standards while inflicting maximum damage. Criminal case, you got to be, it has to be shown beyond a reasonable doubt. A civil case is just a preponderance of evidence. It's a very low standard. Instead of getting to the touchdown, if I start at the 1 yard line of my own 1 yard line, all I got to do is get to the 51 yard line. I don't have to get to the end zone on the other side. So it's a very low standard. You see, and it's very easy to prove. You see, but nevertheless, there's a reason to argue that this lawsuit infringed upon Donald Trump's right in relation to both business and operations and free speech. And the valuations that Letitia James is targeting, how much is this property? How much is that? It's, you know, it looks, they're subjective. But she's choosing to weaponize this judgment as a means to harass Donald Trump, who's a political rival to the Democratic Party. I mean, they asked for almost $500 million. $500 million. Some of y'all, if you lose $5,000, you crying in your beer. 500 million, that's $500 million. That's what she was trying to take from this man during the election year. And so if we look at this potential, what is a potential indictment that the United States Attorney General under Donald Trump can bring against Attorney General of the state of New York under the election interference and conspiracy against rights? And again, I'm talking about 18 USC subsection 241. How would that apply? It would be on grounds that Letitia James conspired potentially with other political actors to undermine Trump's constitutionally protected rights. We're talking about collusion, okay? And if there's evidence that Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, coordinated with the federal government, the White House, or other state officials, that could be Alvin Bragg, Fani, Willis, somebody in the White House under Joe Biden, to strategically time and amplify these charges to impact Trump's campaign, this would squarely fall under the definition of conspiracy against rights. That's what this dude is talking about right here. I'm gonna let this run back.
To big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. And we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that.
We will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. That's what he's telling you, exactly what I'm describing. Their strategy is going to be the same as this one. This is an oversimplification of it, but this is what they would do. Somebody type fat ass in prison. Okay? Because see, the way it looks to me, it looks like her intent was to deprive Donald Trump of his right to participate in the political process and pursue his goals. And James' choice to pursue this case with such intensity at a crucial time, they could have brought this 8 years ago, but they waited right until he was running for president. It seems like an abuse of power, and the scale of penalties sought, $500 million, is far beyond what cases what the case justifies if it were purely about enforcing a state fraud law. Her strategy points to a calculated effort to remove Donald Trump from the public sphere, effectively weaponizing her choice, her office, to sideline Trump. The cold part about it, Donald Trump took the loan, paid it back. The bank was happy. The bank wasn't even complaining. She took it upon herself to do this. She went and dug up and did it. So you really can't I mean, why? And again, just like prosecutors, attorney generals have prosecutorial discretion, but this is too much. This represents, to me, an alarming overreach of legal authority, and it raises legitimate concerns that it could constitute a violation of 18 U.S.C. subsection 241 by abusing civil law to enact or seek extreme penalties against Trump. It appears that she's acting not on a sense of duty, but out of partisan agenda, aiming to cripple his ability to participate in the political arena because it costs money to do that. And her conduct crosses a dangerous line, suggesting a conspiracy to deprive Trump of his fundamental rights. And that's a grave abuse of the power that erodes the public trust and the legal system. And if James' actions indeed stem from a coordinated effort, in other words, she got with Alvin Bragg, she got with Fani Willis, she got with somebody in the White House under Biden or whomever, or somebody affiliated with Kamala Harris's team, that's conspiracy, that's collusion. That's a coordinated effort to interfere with Trump's right in his presidential campaign, and they could get that's some federal charges, fam. That's election interference. If not, there's good grounds to bring it. That's what I'm trying to explain to y'all. Are y'all with me? Do you see how serious this has gotten? Now look, some of y'all didn't believe me when I said it earlier. You remember, you didn't believe, you didn't think I was telling the truth. You thought Uncle D just making up stuff. I am not a conspiracy theorist. What I am is an attorney. I'm an attorney with an advanced degree in law. I have 2 law degrees. I'm licensed in 6 states. I'm licensed in the Supreme Court of the United States. Yes, I'm one of those rare attorneys who is licensed to practice law in the United States Supreme Court. So I take the practice of law extremely serious. If you look up my work, I have people that have vouched for me. So I take this very seriously. I'm a litigator. I just do this YouTube thing because I think it's important. I think we need attorneys, especially Black attorneys, but attorneys in general, to speak to people so they can see, well, man, he's a real human being. You know, he's not like the stereotypical attorney. You guys see me, you see me dusty with my dusty t-shirts, you see me hanging out with my kids. I'm a real life human being. More importantly, if I can do it, you can do it too. That's why I come on here on a consistent basis to talk about it. But when I see these abuses, what I perceive as an abuse of discretion, I have to say something. See something, say something. Remember, the practice of law is governed by lawyers. We are a self-regulated institution. And so it's important for lawyers to say something if they see something. And this looks highly inappropriate. Again, these people have allowed themselves to be used by the liberal left to target Donald Trump, in my opinion. And all they have to do is prove that there was a conspiracy, and some of these folks might go to jail. Again, Letitia James has decided to double down. Alvin Bragg has not dismissed the case. On the flip side, Judge Juan Merchan and Jack Smith, it looks like they pumping the brakes. We'll see what happens. But Jack Smith said, nah, we out of here. Jack Smith said, I'm done. I'm going to show you a picture of Jack Smith just so you can see who we talking about. Jack, I got him on the cover of the thumbnail. I want you to see Jack Smith. Okay? This is Jack Smith right here. Jack Smith, the day after Donald Trump was nominated, elected president, he started winding down his lawsuit. This is Jack Smith right here. Okay? Notice anything about Jack Smith? Special prosecutor? Oh, Jack Smith, I'm just saying. Now let me show you somebody else. Let me give you somebody else. This is Judge Juan Merchan. Let me see if I can pull a picture up of him. That's Judge Juan Merchan. So Juan Merchan and Jack Smith gave themselves an out. You understand? Are we starting to see some similarities between these two gentlemen? This is Jack Smith and this is Juan Merchan. These two fellas said, yeah, I think we're gonna be about done with this. Now let me show you Letitia James for you guys who don't know what she looked like. This is Letitia James. And she thought it was a good idea to double down. This is Alvin Bragg. This is Alvin Bragg, and he decided I guess he's not going to dismiss the case. Okay, and you all also know Fani Willis. I'm going to talk about her in a minute. This is Fani Willis. That's Fani Willis. Now, this person, hold on. Let me get this going again. All right. Let me get it going again. I'm gonna show you guys this again. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this. I want y'all to see again. That's Alvin Bragg. All right. You guys know what he looks like. That's him right there. Trying to get this thing. It ain't working like I needed to, but bottom line is the black folks haven't got the memo. They still think it's a good idea to proceed forward with the case. Like they have a regular defendant or something like that, not a billionaire president. So they are not making the moves they need to make. I'm just pointing it out to you. Okay? All right? It's not a good look. When you got all the black folk who seem not to have received the memo. Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, full steam ahead. Judge Juan Merchan gave himself an out. Jack Smith, he's already wrapping his case up right now. What do y'all think is about to happen? What do you think is about to happen? Who do you think is going to be the fall guy? For what you know about American history? First person to die in the Revolutionary War, black dude, right? What do you guys know? Just saying. So again, looks suspicious. But I want to talk a little bit about Fani Willis. Let me know if y'all still with me. I'm enjoying this. I hope you all are enjoying this. I think it's educational. I've been talking about this for a couple of years now. Now, Fani Willis, you guys know who Fani Willis is, right? Inglewood's finest. She's now the district attorney of Fulton County. She was just reelected. And she's been spearheading this high stakes prosecution against Donald Trump and several others claiming they attempted to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. YSL, Young Thug, you guys remember Young Thug? Panda. I think this is Panda, that guy. And she brought some RICO charges against those guys, and now she's bringing it against. Let me say it like this: she has deployed Georgia's Racketeering Influenced Corrupt Organizations Act, which is RICO, against Trump and his associates. These are other officials in the state, alleging that there was a coordinated attempt to manipulate the election outcome. RICO. They used this for the mob back in the 1980s. Rudy Giuliani, who was actually the district attorney the Attorney General for the Southern District of New York used this against the Italian mob to break the mob up. RICO, RICO. So this is traditionally reserved for organized crime, not political actions. So this is really unheard of. And she's using it here, and it seems like a tactical overreach. And she's trying to paint Trump's actions as some sort of criminal or some sort of criminal acts on some massive scale, rather than just addressing the specific allegations. And Willis claims that she claimed that his allies pressured the state of Georgia officials to spread misinformation about voter fraud and engage in illegal tactics to sway the election. But these accusations rest on a very thin line between political speech and criminal conduct, and it raises questions about her motives. So again, we have questionable motives. But by using RICO, Willis is treading in uncharted territory, aiming for some very severe penalties under a state statute that could severely damage Trump's reputation. The case looks more to me like a weaponized legal maneuver than a legitimate legal action. So again, we're talking about 18 USC 241. Applying RICO in this case, it seems a stretch. It stretches the bounds of prosecutorial discretion, and it could signal potentially abuse of power. That's what it looks like. I think we all think that. Okay, and a lot of people argue, the critics, the legal scholars argue that this choice doesn't match the case specific, and it is really used as an intimidation tactic because RICO cases take a long time, they're very expensive, and not a lot of attorneys can deal with it. And it's likely intended to undermine Trump's right to campaign freely. And that's what it did. And if proven, these actions fall dangerously close to a conspiracy to interfere with Trump's constitutional rights. Now, what's the political motivation? And the timing is everything. Everything in politics. That's what timing is. And the timing of Willis's charges, it raises red flags. Somebody type red flags in the chat room. Now, this high-profile case was brought forward as Trump was once again campaigning, and it reeks of lawfare. With the prosecutorial resources seemingly dedicated to undercutting Trump's public image and candidacy rather than pursuing justice. And he won Georgia anyway. You see? But the motives were aimed at undermining his electoral prospects. And that constitutes an electoral, or should I say election interference. And here's the cold part about it. Nathan Wade, who's basically Fani Willis's boyfriend, he wasn't even experienced in taking RICO charges or RICO cases. He had to go do a continuing legal education just to learn how to do RICO cases. And the fact that he was paid to the tune of, I believe, $750,000 or $250 an hour. And keep in mind, he was paying for trips. Apparently, they're saying that, you know, he was taking her on trips to Napa Valley, to the Caribbean. And so we're looking also at improperly handling taxpayers' funds or relying on an inexperienced staff to execute what seems to be politically motivated agenda. So if he failed, guess what? Well, that was his first time trying a RICO case. Nevertheless, it brings her professionalism into question, and her motives are questionable. So what's the potential? How can she be indicted? What if, let's say now it's January 22nd. Trump now has his attorney general in place. They decide they want to prosecute Fani Willis and Nathan Wade for trying to deprive Trump of his constitutionally protected rights under subsection USC, 18 USC subsection 241. Well, here's the thing. If it emerges that Fani Willis coordinated with other political actors or federal officials to bring these charges to sabotage Trump's campaign, it could clearly align with the conspiracy against his rights. And such a conspiracy would entail collusion to infringe upon Trump's ability to participate in the political process as protected. We already know that Nathan Wade flew up to Washington, D.C., and signed his name and entered into the White House and had a meeting with White House officials. We already know that. He was even paid by the hour for the time. And when lawyers keep their hours, they have to, when they pay by the hour, they have to keep a detailed explanation of what they did and who they talked to and what they talked about. So the evidence is already there. All that needs to happen is the U.S. Attorney General simply needs to subpoena Wade's law hours, subpoena the information. They don't even need to subpoena it. Once Trump takes over the White House, that's part of the public record. He can just say, bring that up here, let's make some copies of it. That's part of the case. You came up here and met with White House officials. We have your attorney's hours right here. We know what you did. That's collusion right there. And we paid you, so you can't even say it was you were working at the time. That's collusion. Do you see how quickly this is going to spiral down? The best thing for Fani Willis to do was dismiss all the charges against all the defendants with prejudice and be done with. That would be the best thing for them to do. Because see, along with talking about Letitia James, he also has some choice words for Fani Willis. And you guys can go over to this cat's broadcast. I put it up on my community tab. Make sure you tell them the Blizzard King sent you. You can go up there and look at it. He talked about this guy right here, Mike Davis, that lawyer at the bottom who told Letitia, we'll put your fat ass in jail. We'll put your fat ass in prison. Keep playing, sweetheart. They also mentioned Fani Willis by name. But see, here's the thing, so we can go back into, because I don't want to lose train of thought. By deploying the RICO and inflating these charges for actions that can easily be argued as protected political speech, Willis her conduct risks being seen as a misuse of her position. And when a prosecutor manipulates laws as a political weapon, it becomes an attack on the democratic process. And under subsection 241, that's grounds for legal repercussions. More importantly, she's probably going to get kicked off the case anyway, according to the appellate court, who's over Fulton County. So she's going to be out there. You wrong. You shouldn't have been on the case. There's prosecutorial misconduct. You possibly misappropriated funds. You got some ethics complaints. You hired your boyfriend. There's your testimony that you and Mr. Wade only met a few times at work is conflicted by the cell phone tower coverage that said he was spending all kind of nights up at your house and would call you when he left. So you may have misrepresented the truth under oath, counselor. Nevertheless, Fani Willis's prosecution of Donald Trump and his friends under RICO is troubling, to say the least. It reeks of overreach, political bias, and an intention to intimidate a political figure. And her decision to use RICO on questionable grounds alongside her connections and the ethical issues surrounding her office's operations suggests an alarming abuse of legal authority, to say the least. And if her actions are shown to be part of a coordinated strategy to interfere with Trump's campaign, Willis could be in direct violation of federal law, federal criminal law, representing a clear case of conspiracy against Donald Trump's rights. And this should raise serious concerns about abuse of prosecutorial power and integrity of our democratic process. We've seen it before. Thank you so much, Telvin King. I appreciate y'all. I thought y'all was getting bored. I thought you was bored. This is some boring stuff, but man, this is going to play out like somebody going to prison. Somebody's going to get disbarred. Somebody's going to prison. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody's going to prison. Somebody's getting disbarred. This man has to deal with his political enemies. You understand what I'm saying? He has to do it. He cannot leave these people. He cannot leave them on the board, on the political board. He's going to put them in jail. He has to. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Over the next 4 years, Donald Trump has a 4-year window to eliminate his political opponents by bankrupting them, putting them in jail, putting them in prison, or discrediting them, taking their power away. Because if not, they will rise up and come after him again. They're already talking stuff. That's why I'm trying to explain to y'all. This is going to play out. The man already said in one of his books that if you can take revenge and it's not that big of a deal to do, go ahead and do it. He's going to take revenge. Somebody type Donald Trump's revenge in the chat room, baby. Ooh, it's going down. Shout out to my man DT Super Chat and Simeo TKO and Brasilia Lero Hinton. I saw this a while back, man, and the lesson, gentlemen, and I want to talk about Jack Smith because he's the only one that seems intelligent in this situation. Jack Smith is out. You understand me? Jack Smith is the smartest one, and he is out. I'm going to put another picture up of Jack Smith. Good old Jack Smith. Jack Smith and Juan Merchan are getting up out of there. The white fellas is bailing. I guess Fani Willis didn't get the memo. You see, I'm gonna put this up. I want y'all to see what I'm saying. Y'all still with me? Matter of fact, look, it is 2 minutes ago. This just came through. On the Wednesday after Donald Trump was elected, right? Jack Smith filed a motion to basically shut this case down against Donald Trump. And the judge grants Jack Smith's request to pause Trump's election interference case. It's over. Donald Trump's federal election interference case will not move forward for now after Judge Tanya Chutkan granted special counsel Jack Smith's motion to vacate the outstanding deadlines in the case over the unprecedented circumstance of Trump's election victory. In a filing on Friday, pointed out that Trump, the defendant, is set to be certified as president-elect on January 6, 2025, and inaugurated on January 20th. In light of the impending change in Trump's status, change in status. Woo! Smith asked the Judge Chutkan pause all remaining pretrial deadlines to allow his office. I want you to look at the time to assess. Look at that. Time to assess this unprecedented circumstance and determine the appropriate course going forward consistent with the Department of Justice policy. In other words, my new boss, who I've been suing on behalf of my old boss, is about to tear me a new one. And so I need to pack my stuff and get up out of here before he gets in office. I'm going to quit. Let's shut all these deadlines. No need to keep working on this. This is over. Judge, this is a wrap. It's a wrap. It's time for us to reassess. I wish we had some white folks to interpret what reassess means. Time to assess. Time to assess means time to get up out of here. I don't want to be anywhere near this office when Donald Trump becomes a president. Okay? The thing is, the Justice Department has a long-standing policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. So that's part of the reason. That's the reason. He's got an out. He's out of here. Okay? But a little bit about the case. Basically, Jack Smith's case, and this was a crappy case too. Jack Smith, he was appointed special counsel by the U.S. Department of Justice. Okay? And he was given the task of investigating Donald Trump on two main fronts, trying to allege that he mishandled classified documents and actions surrounding January 6th. January 6th, you know, there was a little tea party at the Capitol building. Shout out to my man, Kenneth Williams, okay? And the documents have to do with the fact that when Trump lost the presidency in 2020, he took some boxes of documents and took them down to Mar-a-Lago with him. All right, these classified documents. That's the classified documents case. Smith focused on Trump's handling of the classified documents post-presidency. And they investigated claims that Trump retained materials that should have been returned to the National Archives. Additionally, Jack Smith probed whether Trump obstructed justice by allegedly failing to cooperate with authorities regarding documents. And this line of questioning appears as much a stretch as it does an attempt to dig up any possible charge. Remember, FBI raided Donald Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago. Y'all remember that? The FBI, Joe Biden and his Justice Department sent the feds to Donald Trump's house, and they raided this man's house. They had firearms with them, man. They raided Donald Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago. Mind you, he already got charges in New York City. They already took a mugshot of him. They trying to put him in jail. I want to take y'all back a couple years because some of y'all are missing this. Jack Smith and the FBI under Attorney General Merrick Garland raided Donald Trump's house with the FBI, and they had guns with them, man. Y'all know this is payback. This is why the next day after he found out this dude got elected, I'm out. Payback is a payback. That's what you see about to happen. This about to be I was going to say a poop show. Get your popcorn. Get your popcorn. You thought he cleaned the swamp up last time. Boy, he about to throw bleach in the swamp water. So that's the first case. So you saying he kept some documents? So y'all got to send the FBI to raid his house with guns because he got documents? This is a former president of the United States for some documents? Y'all couldn't work that out? Jack Smith knows what's up. He out. Somebody type, we out. This dude right here. And keep in mind, Merrick Garland was nominated by Barack Obama to be appointed, to be confirmed by the United States Senate to be a Supreme Court justice. But I believe Mitch McConnell withheld the nomination, so he was never able to have a Senate hearing. And this was a year, he was nominated a year, was it a year? Or was it? Yeah, they held that Senate seat up because Donald Trump was running for president. And so that was the first person that was the first seat that Donald Trump filled. So remember, there was only 8 Supreme Court justices for a minute because one of them, removed himself, so to speak. Okay. I think he died. I don't know. I forget which one. But the bottom line is, so Merrick Garland's got beef with Donald Trump off top. And so now he's the head of the Attorney General's office, or the U.S. Attorney's office under Joe Biden. And so now he puts his attack dog, Jack Smith, on him. So we got beef. This is beef right here. But this dude like, nah, I ain't sticking around for that. Y'all don't pay me enough for that. I'm out. They raided Donald Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago. The FBI raided Donald Trump's house with guns, man. They had guns on him for some papers that they say he should have gave to the National Archives. You see how serious it is? See how petty this is? This is about to go down. Either way, so that's the first one, the classified documents case. The next one is Jack Smith he's trying to examine Trump's role leading up to or during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And he basically scrutinized Trump's communication state. Mind you, Donald Trump was nowhere near that. In fact, Donald Trump was saying, hey, we can peacefully protest, blah, 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 in the American way. But Jack Smith read into that he tried to criminalize Trump's speech, and the response to the events, it raises significant First Amendment issues and borders on punishing political dissent. That's exactly what you see happening. And the thing is, Jack Smith's investigation stretched across multiple legal areas, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of justice, and mishandling classified information. And the critics argue that Jack Smith's broad application of these charges were excessive and legally dubious and politically motivated. And I think we all see that. Even he knows that. If he really believed in his case, why would he not stand strong? Huh? Again, this case by Jack Smith, it reeks of potential 18 USC subsection 241 violations. And many of Jack Smith's investigations, as they see it as politically driven, and it was an attempt to derail Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. And Jack Smith's actions appear to reflect a calculated strategy aimed at undermining Trump's candidacy and limiting his appeal. They tried to destroy this man. They tried to embarrass this man. This is blatant partisanship, and it goes beyond prosecutorial duty, and is stepping into the realm of election interference. And Smith's investigative reach stretched far beyond facts. They attempted to bring the weight of the Department of Justice down on Donald Trump, who was at that time a private citizen. And this overreach points to a clear abuse of power, and it attempts to redefine political speech and the campaign activities. He has a right to speak. That's not criminal. And the fact that Jack Smith went to these links signals a clear intention to sideline Trump through any legal means necessary. The timing of this thing, they could have brought this back in January. They didn't bring it to the year they found out he was running for president. They didn't bring it to Trump's 2024 campaign began to pick up momentum. And that's hard to ignore. And Jack Smith's approach appears more like a strategic ambush aimed at smearing Trump's reputation during the election cycle than an unbiased pursuit of justice. The suspicious timing only reinforces the claims that these investigations were politically orchestrated. And let me tell you how I know, and you should know. And I'm going to say it again. The day after Trump won, which was Tuesday, around midnight, the following day, Wednesday morning, Jack Smith began rapidly backtracking on his case against Trump. I thought you was all in, dog. The day after the election, Smith was already taking steps to dismiss the case, and that's a clear indicator that he sees the writing on the wall, and he recognizes the potential consequences of his overreach. And Smith is attempting to exit the scene before Trump returns to office, and that highlights his awareness of the politically motivated nature of his actions and the potential repercussions of pursuing such a baseless case. Look, it's not a hard case to prove under 18 USC 241. This man prosecutes people under that. All Donald Trump would have to do is prove that Jack Smith actions it just hinges on him demonstrating that he conspired to deny Trump his constitutional protected right. We already know Nathan Wade met with some folks in the White House. We got notes and pamphlets on that. He was working with Fani Willis. You don't think Letitia James was working with these people? They got to exchange information. They're all on the same side of the V. So I'm absolutely sure there's evidence that Smith coordinated with other political figures or agencies, including the White House and some of these other prosecutors, state and federal, around the country. And they time these investigations specifically to hurt Trump's campaign in the election process. And the politically charged actions reflect an agenda aimed at disrupting Donald Trump's campaign and infringing upon his rights as a political candidate. Do you hear me? To me, it seems like Jack Smith's actions are rooted in a politically motivated effort to harass a presidential candidate. using legal avenues, using his position as a special counsel appointed by Garland Merrick, or Merrick Garland, who he's probably mad at because he's mad. Merrick Garland's still mad because he's supposed to be on the Supreme Court. And now he's using his position or misusing his authority for partisan gain. Not that violates legal standard, but it also poses a serious threat to democracy. This is serious business. So Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump is emblematic. Is to me, it's prosecutorial overreach. It demonstrates political bias, and it's an abuse of power. And it was designed to interfere with presidential election, but it's gone now. His swift steps to dismiss the case following Trump's election only emphasize his awareness of the risk and his desire to avoid accountability. Smith's actions suggest a clear violation of Chapter 18 USC subsection 241, and as he uses authority not for justice but for sabotage. To sabotage Trump's campaign and deny his rights. And this type of conduct is unacceptable, and it undermines the rule of law and should be met with serious consequences. But again, he dismissed the case. Guess who didn't dismiss the case? Fani Willis, Letitia James. And let me remind you why, I want to remind you all why we're here today. Okay? This is why we're here today. Because she had to say this.
But we are prepared to respond to this result. We faced this challenge before. Expect this result.
Down in the chat room.
But we are prepared to respond to this result. We faced this challenge before. And we use the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again.
So, the day after Donald Trump was elected, Jack Smith dismissed the case, and this lovely lady right here doubled down on her case in New York against Donald Trump, where she's trying to get $500 million. You hear that language? We're ready to fight. Okay, when you put that energy out there, when you tell people you're ready to fight, you just invited a fight. Donald Trump might not even be, he's probably thinking about her, but she wasn't high on his list. He's got other stuff to do. We got to stop some wars in Ukraine, in the Middle East. We got to get this economy together. But you just put yourself on the priority list, Letitia James. That was not a very intelligent thing to do, to make the most powerful man in the world. You just made the most powerful man in the free world. You just became his number one priority, and not in a good way. And again, in response, the day after she had these statements, these mafia-esque things to say, Donald Trump's lawyer said the following.
Say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights, and I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time, and they are not effing around.
They're not effing around. Well, family, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who contributed to the Super Chat. If you've learned something, if you appreciate what I've done here today, if you've been fully educated, I got some more for you. I want to talk to you before I leave, but I want to make sure I give a shout out to everybody who came through with the Super Chat. And if you want to take this opportunity to contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App or PayPal, I think I got a PayPal link around here somewhere. Go ahead and do that while I'm reading it out. I start at the back. I start at the top from first up, and I'm gonna go all the way down to the bottom. And so for those of you guys who would like to contribute, go ahead and do so. I appreciate that. If you've learned something, okay? If you have learned something, if you appreciate what I've done, go ahead and contribute to the super chat. If you learned something, if you learned something new, if you got some talking points now, go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna start reading these super chats from the people who have already contributed. My man Tavaria squared up. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Pay your Blizzard taxes. Shout out to Big Bass Life, who you say ain't going to be, and who you say ain't going to the penitentiary. I squared up lifestyle. Yeah, man, you got to square it up, man. Be careful out there in these streets. Very little. Salute to Uncle D in the chat, and salute to Big Bass. That intro was fire. Hey, man, good looking out, man. Yeah, I got to pay that man. Y'all make sure y'all help me pay that Big Bass bill. I got to pay that man for all this work he's doing. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you. Thank you, Barry Little. Kenneth McDonald, good evening to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good evening to you, Mr. McDonald. Steel Curtain, they ain't playing this time. She better act like she knows. She showed better. This is a different administration. This man is ready to roll. And he's motivated. It's not a game. Shout out to Kareem Sharif, who Big Tish James that gives her off. Yeah, they need to think heavily about getting up out of here. Okay, they need to let that go. It didn't work. It failed. Do what Jack Smith does. Get out of there. Tishi Noor, gift one. Dennis Spurling Park. Thank you so much for making somebody a member. I appreciate you. TIQS. Thank you for covering this topic, Uncle D. You predicted this a few years ago to leave Trump alone. They poked the bear, and now they may have to deal with the consequences. Yeah, it's a problem. You know, like they said, if you come for the king, you better not miss. And they came for the king, and they missed terribly. My man, Your Excellence, I'll keep sharing these important messages with other Black men. I always salute the work you do for us, Uncle D, from my coffers to yours. I'll get back, especially when 47 mandates, no tax on overtime. Woo! Shout out to him. And throw the book at them all. Yeah, man, I think Donald Trump is going to do a lot. And if the things he says he's going to do, I mean, check this out real quick. Look at that.
Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. My department...
Hey, man, you can't be mad at that, man. You can't really be mad at that. So, yeah, I predict Donald Trump is going to do everything he said he was going to do, and that's going to be number one priority, especially since it looks to me like he's going to end up having both houses of Congress. So, man, let's keep that work going. Let's keep him in our prayers. Wrench Turner, shout out to Black Men, support Black Men Muted. Thank you so much for the $10. Brown Hornet 1975, you have said this a few years back, Uncle D. They're committing political suicide, especially those Black Democrat tools. That's exactly what's happening. I can't believe they're not intelligent enough to recognize that they're being used, man. That's crazy. Don't write a check you can't cash. Yeah, Letitia, you out here picking fights? Why are you picking fights?
But we are prepared to respond to this result. We faced this challenge before.
There's nothing you can do.
And we use the rule of law to fight back.
The rule of law, you tried that. It didn't work.
And we are prepared to fight back once again.
Call you, look at that. And you done messed around, and I ain't never seen a white boy get turned up like
to
this.
Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term. Because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. And we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you. Did you hear that white boy say that? Long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights.
You better leave that white man. You better leave. You better go somewhere and sit yourself down. You need to talk to somebody that can tell you this is not the day. Okay, Letitia James, you done let that little title that you have go to your head. Okay, you need to cut it out. You are picking fights with the wrong people, baby girl. It's gonna be bad for everybody. Don't do it. Don't do it. But you done did it and you don't know how to back down. Do what Jack Smith did. Jack Smith said, all right, whatever, it's out. He out. Judge Juan Machon, he ain't from here. He from Columbia. And I'm not talking about Columbia, South Carolina. I'm talking about Columbia, where all them fine women are. And he like, we out of here. Nobody's doing it. You the only one doing it. Let it go. You, Alvin Bragg, Fani, Willis, y'all need to dismiss them cases, man. You're going to make us all look bad. Don't do it. Don't be a fall guy like that. It's crazy. Just at some point, it's like the ball game is over. Let it go, baby. Just let it go. You lost. Your team lost. Go sit down. Go get ready for training camp. Go get you some beers and have some pizzas, gain a little weight, and come on back next season. It's a wrap. Anyway, Wrench Turner, he basically much said, welcome to death row. That's basically what he said. Welcome to death row. Any of y'all, you don't want nobody dancing in your videos, whatnot, come on over to death row. That's basically what he said. It's a wrap. It's over. My man, shout out to Wrench Turner. Sonny Roberts, something happens to my president, DJT. I'm snapping Black MAGA. Stay ready. Oh my God. Somebody type Black MAGA in the chat room. Chief Rock super sticker, $20. Thank you so much. Wrench Turner, thank you for the 10. Who else we got? Michael Avenate represents Stormy Daniels. He says, and has had bad luck ever since his pardon release date is 2030. Ooh, his prison release date is 2035. Boy, look, man, they giving out prison time. Y'all need to stop playing out here, man. Don't do it. It ain't worth it. Super sticker. Thank you for the $5. DT, $3 super sticker. Simeon Tycho, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Brasilerio Hilton, who's bored? Hey, man, this is some boring stuff. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. Good looking out. I hope you guys enjoy what I do, man. I spent a lot of time, man, putting this together. I think I'm probably the only one hitting it like this. You see what I mean? And I like that. I like being on the cusp and the edge of really pushing what we do here on YouTube forward, especially for the brothers, you know, because there ain't nobody who can articulate. Nah, I'm pushing it forward, man. I'm giving y'all talking points. Y'all can go out there and give it to people, but and sound intelligent and thoughtful. You got a detailed analysis of what they're talking about. You see what I mean? And you got a forecast of what potentially could happen. I hope nothing happens to Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and Letitia James, but they need to be a lot more intelligent with how they operate and stop thinking that the playing field is equal. Soon as Jack Smith packed his stuff up and left, all the rest of these prosecutors should realize it's over. But they're not. They're too dogged and hard-headed. That's when your ego gets too big. Our black women know our egos are too big. You know your egos, can't nobody tell you nothing. Somebody needs to tell Letitia James and Fani Willis, but nobody can tell you anything. You're not listening. And that carries over from social to family, all the way to professional. Nobody can tell you anything, ladies. And if you listen to this, it's time to dismiss those cases and move on. You can have another political day. The public has a short memory. 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, you can have a nice, quiet life somewhere. But if you keep running up against this brick wall called Donald Trump, especially with the political climate, you are going to get punished. You're going to lose your license. You're going to lose your livelihood. You're going to go down in infamy. You're going to make all black people look bad. All black professionals look bad. So it's time to give up the ghost and move on, in my opinion. My man Hologram EMC, the fact that these mental deficients really thought this would fly speaks to an even broader problem. Who are their advisors? They don't have advisors. You see, that's the problem, brother. They don't have advisors, and they're not listening to people like me. They're not, and it's just a mistake. TIQS, great discussion, Uncle D. I learned today. It was well worth the email. Good looking out, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Also, Mr. Hilton said, Lieutenant James, LT James, the perfect example of these ratchet A's heifers running around here and they want us to protect them. Yeah, man, you got to let it go. Also, Hootsy, thank you, Uncle D. This is a master lesson. Good looking out, fam. I appreciate you. Big shout out to all my folks who came through with the cash apps. I got to run these cash apps back. Hold on a minute. Let me get this one together. I want to make sure I give a big shout out to Mr. Warren. Thank you so much for I don't read your first names. I'll just read your last name because you put it on Cash App and I want to keep it confidential. But I will say your last name. Thank you, Mr. Warren, for the $20 Cash App. Thank you, Mr. Spruill, for the $10 Cash App. Thank you, Sick With It Yo, for the $10 Cash App. Thank you, Mr. Shelton, for the $10 Cash App. And thank you, Mr. Ward, for the $100 Cash App. And you get the rock and roll. I appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you. Everybody in the chat room, if you still with me, hit the number one button. Hit the number one button. Somebody say, Uncle D, are you running for public office? Hell no. I love being a private attorney. I love dealing with folks that I can choose to deal with. I'm going to stick to doing what I'm doing. Okay? Now, what I need you guys to do for me is make sure if you have not subscribed to the channel, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel right now. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. I appreciate you guys doing that. Now, nevertheless, let me turn the little mood music on so I can read read this into the universe. This closing statement. Understand what I'm talking about? You guys understand me. Shout out to my man Contract. Spurling, the Blizzard King. And as I close out tonight, we entitled this, Who's Going to Jail? And when you come for the king, you bet not miss, and they missed. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about all of these lawyers, black and white, who allowed themselves to be used by the liberal wing of the Democrat Party as attack dogs. Now, I found it mighty suspicious a couple of years ago when I examined the cases closely, they were all suspect, number one. Number two, all of the prosecutors, attorney generals, U.S. attorneys, they were all black. Alvin Bragg, black man, Harvard graduate. Letitia James, attorney general of New York. Fani Willis, homegirl from Inglewood. Nathan Wade, lead prosecutor in the RICO case, Fulton County. The other brother, I forget his name, Southern District of Florida, all black. Bringing these frivolous cases against Donald Trump. If the cases were so good, you telling me that only 1% of there's only 1% black attorneys in the United States. And of that 99%, you couldn't find out one white person to bring these frivolous cases or bring these cases. That looked mighty suspicious to me. Now, aside from Jack Smith, who was a specially appointed prosecutor under Merrick Garland to prosecute Trump for the January 6th and the Records Act, all the rest of them were black. Looks suspicious. Who did this? Sound like a setup to me. Nobody believed me 2 years ago when I said it. Matter of fact, I was the first person to point it out. Because everybody else recognized, the people that powers that be recognized that there was a risk that this might not work. It was a small risk. Because remember when Donald Trump got put out of the White House when he lost, people were saying his political career was over. They were saying 2016 was a fluke. He was done. Somebody typed done in the chat room. But like a phoenix, Donald Trump has rose from the ashes. And he's basically being crowned king once again. And there's an old saying, if you come for the king, you best not miss. And let me tell you, these black attorneys, Letitia James, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Alvin Bragg, and all of the like. They came for the king, and they missed. They missed in the worst possible way, and now they're about to face the consequences alone. While they stood in line to be used to be puppets to carry out the dirty work for those white liberal elites, they failed to see that they walked right into a trap. They thought they were on the winning team. They thought the power and the influence were promised would protect them. But here's the truth. Jack Smith, Judge Juan Merchan, those two white folks, them two white men, the judge, they're gonna walk out scot-free. Because they're smart enough to realize that the jig is up. Those who put these black lawyers up to this mess will escape without a scratch. While with Letitia James, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and Alvin Bragg, they're gonna be left holding the bag. Their so-called allies will disappear, leaving them exposed, disbarred, and bankrupt. And if justice is served, possibly behind bars. They traded their integrity, their careers, and their standing in the community to be someone else's attack dog. And now they're about to lose it all. They allowed themselves to be used as tools while the very people who set them up will watch from a distance, hands clean, untouched. Jack Smith dismissed this case the day after he found out Donald Trump won. He's gonna walk out of this without so much as a slap on the wrist. Judge Juan Merchan, he has judicial immunity. He's gonna continue on unaffected, and he's gonna make sure he better make sure he dismissed this case. Otherwise, he's putting his daughter's life and welfare and freedom in jeopardy. So he's got to do what he's got to do. That's why he hadn't sentenced him. But these black attorneys, these black prosecutors and these black district attorneys and attorneys generals being propped up in this position, head and neck exposed to political decapitation, they'll be the ones that left to face ruin. Ruin they brought on themselves. And this isn't just a missed shot. This is a complete and utter failure that will cost them everything. They came for the king and they missed, and now they're about to pay the ultimate price while their handlers walk away unscathed. So all you folks out here listening, let's be brutal with this lesson. If you choose to come for the king, you better be certain of your aim, because these attorneys came and they missed. And now, with no one left to back them, they're the ones who are gonna fail. More importantly, as black professionals, whether you are working in Wall Street or whether you're working on a construction yard somewhere, maintain your integrity. Have some self-pride about yourself. Stop looking for other people's validation. Stop trying to appease other people and make people like you. Stop being so naive and having so much low self-esteem. Have some integrity. You have to believe you deserve the position that you've reached. The only way you'll be willing to be somebody's stooge and take low is if you truly believe you don't belong there. You belong here. You earned a position. You're here. And now here you are working in somebody's office somewhere, young woman, and you feel like, young black woman, you feel like you got to mess around with the boss just to try to work your way up. because you don't really feel like you earn that position and you looking for job security. Or you're a young man working in a construction yard or a plumbing site or something having to do with manual labor, and you taking the risky jobs just because you feel like you got to prove yourself, risking life and limb. You're a young professional, a young doctor, and you're taking chances that might get you sued for medical malpractice, going out on a limb, trying to prove yourself. After you reach this lofty position, just trying to prove to these other people you worthy. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. And now, these people have been gassed up. These black lawyers, so few of us have been gassed up to believe that they're on the same level of their handlers or that their handlers will protect them. And now they're going to be abandoned. And I see it happening. And I saw it happening 2 years ago. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know how the system works. Our ancestors, our great leaders, Brother Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, they showed us how this system works. If you allow yourself to be used and played, you will be. Have some integrity. None of these cases brought against Donald Trump should have ever been brought in the first place. And now, after being prosecuted, trying to take his money, trying to put it in jail, and some people say even trying to take his life, this man has rose up and you still won't let it go. Your ego, Letitia James, won't allow you to dismiss this case. You so entrenched yourself into this. This has become so much a part of you. Your ego won't let you let it go. But you know what they say? Pride comes before the fall. And so unfortunately, we're going to have to see another black professional fall. And that's just so unfortunate. I take no pleasure in this. And I don't want to see it happen, but it's going to happen. And there's nobody that's going to come save you. So when the question is asked, who's going to jail? Probably those people. This is Uncle D. I love you guys. And as I always say, I'm out.
In the Spurling podcast, hit the like button, subscribe.
Mm-hmm.